reaction to the numbers you see here today?
Yeah, I think in terms of the traditional charter schools, what you see today is much less worrisome than what we saw last year. I'm guessing the auditor's idea that, and what he said, that if people are looking, if people are paying attention, if there's an audit, then compliance increases. And I think that looks like what we saw this year.
Is there anything else that can be done to help drive up the attendance rates and make sure that people are actually sitting in their chairs?
Well, I think this is the beginning of hopefully what will be a good practice. I think charter schools and charter school sponsors are on notice that not only does attendance matter, which it's always mattered, but now someone's checking. So I think that should continue. I think he also identified dropout recovery schools whose numbers did not actually improve this year. They're very similar to what they were last year, and they continue to be rather problematic.
What should people know about dropout recovery schools? Because they're going to see these numbers, they're going to see how low they are. What kind of caveat or factors do you think they need to know about?
The number one thing is these are students who, but for this school, but for this opportunity, would likely be dropouts. So the hope is that you can recover, that you can get a certain percentage, a certain number to the point where they can get their diplomas and go on and be productive and happy citizens. What they should know though is right now there is not an established standard of what a good dropout recovery school looks like. So we saw some today that were clocking in at 50%. If a bad one is at 20%, 50% is knocking it out of the park. But without a standard in place, we don't know if they should be performing at 60%, in which case all of them would be below average. So we do need to wrap our heads around it and have people think, it might even be time for a work group or something, to kind of figure out exactly what a good standard is, what does success look like. The other thing I would add to that is the auditor opened the door on this, is thinking about how in the future should we fund dropout recovery schools. Should it be continued based on attendance, when you have attendance ranging anywhere in this report from 0 to 50%? Or should it be based on completion for how many kids schools can get from dropout, from being recovered as a dropout recovery student actually to the diploma stage? So maybe funding looks different. Maybe you don't just report FTE funding. Maybe you do it based on completion, based on the number of diplomas actually awarded. Maybe you even increase the funding amount, knowing they're not going to graduate 90%, but you increase the funding amount and you give them more, but you only pay them for ones that get to the finish line.
Do you think it makes more sense to fund them based on completion?
I think it's something we should give serious thought to. I don't think you should ever enter into that rashly, but I think it's something that, looking at these attendance numbers, looking at some of the dropout rates that we've seen, that it makes sense. I think our current measure of saying a school's meeting expectations, if you're a dropout recovery school and you increase your graduation rate by 10%, is probably not truly necessarily meeting expectations. An example is if your rate was 10% and you increase it to 11%, that's a 10% increase. But I don't think when you see all these you see schools, dropout recovery schools with 20, 30, 40% graduation rates that you could call an 11% one successful.
What do you think about the auditor's statement that the Ohio Department of Education is the worst run state department?
The auditor looks at many more state agencies than I do. Personally, I've worked very well with the Department of Education. I think education is challenging. I think he's right in noting it's a very complex agency with lots of duties, some of them that conflict. And I think taking a look at those duties that conflict and making sure that we're not asking them to both oversee and operate things like they do in the charter school sector as a charter school sponsor, I think that's smart. And I think with a new superintendent coming on board, a state school board hopefully that is aligned right now behind a new leader and a mission, we certainly should be looking at those issues. But I'll leave the auditor to his own statements on the best and the worst in the various categories.